Well, we can now speak to Dan Arbel, who's a scholar in residence at the Centre for Israeli Studies at AU and is a 25-year veteran of the Israeli Foreign Service. Well, Dan, thank you so much for taking time to come on the programme. Now, as we've been seeing, the protests have been taking place for weeks. But how much of a divide in Israeli society do you think these protests are having?
This is absolutely tearing Israeli society apart. The government's plan to overhaul the justice system and to alter the checks and balances system is making many Israelis fearful and very upset and angry. And, Israelis that usually sit at home and watch TV are taking to the streets and are opposing this government's plans because Israelis feel that, this government was elected democratically. However, it's going much beyond its mandate. It's trying to alter the very nature, the very character of Israeli democracy, pushing it towards dictatorship. And that's what scares many Israelis. And therefore, you see so many day after day out in the streets.
So the protests are seeping into the reserve corps, which are pulling different branches of the Israeli society. How unusual is that for them to get involved?
This is highly unprecedented. This has never in the history has never happened. Reservists, senior army, former generals, pilots, combat pilots from special units, special forces are out there and they're saying, we've served. We're willing to give up our lives for the defense of this country. However, we are doing so on the basis that this remains a democracy. If Israel becomes a dictatorship, we will not serve anymore. We will not volunteer for combat missions and so on. So this is very, very unprecedented. And in the days to come, if there's no resolution and no compromise, I believe we'll see more and more greater numbers of people following in their footsteps.
Now, you mentioned compromise. Do you expect any compromise to come from the government? And if so, what do you think that would look like?
Everybody's talking about a compromise. The person who was leading the efforts for a compromise was President Herzog. And his statement tonight, I think, is he's about to give up, but he's kind of sending a message to everybody, especially to the government, that their plan as is right now is destructive. And and he will abandon his efforts if they don't change it. So the onus is on the government. The onus is on Mr. Netanyahu. Then, of course, once they agree for some sort of measures to tone down their plan, then there may be people on the other side that will entertain that. But at the moment, the onus is on the coalition, on the governing coalition, on Mr. Netanyahu to adopt changes to the plan.
Dan Arbel, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.